Welcome back to part 10 of this series. If you have time for nothing else, listen to these 10 episodes. If you missed any of the previous episodes, go back and listen to them. Quick recap. Number 1 was 5% to your Roth TSP. Number 2, create the TSP account and invest in the closest L fund to your retirement date. Number 3, you start an emergency fund with $1,000. Number 4, you start a realistic budget for main things like rent, food, transportation. Number 5, you're paying off high interest rate debt. Number 6, you're starting a budget. Based on your budget, you increase your emergency fund to cover 3 months of expenses. Number 7, you're opening a Roth IRA and contributing to a total stock market index fund. Number 8, you're maxing out your Roth TSP contributions annually. Number 9, you build the life you want and save for it. And drumroll, please. Number 10, you save enough to rapidly achieve financial independence. We know that a 50% savings rate can mean financial independence in just 17 years. Most people don't even think that's an option. And it's there, right there, 17 years from now.
I think that's the crazy thing, Jamie, is that if no one shows you the math and no one shows you like how long this can take and how short it can be, right, in a lifetime, I mean, you can achieve financial independence before you are eligible for a military retirement. And people retire from the military when they're 38 years old. You still have more than half your life ahead of you. And imagine you could achieve financial independence and then you could add a VA disability and military pension on top of that as well. Holy cow, Jamie, like the world could be your oyster. And the great thing is like, if you're listening to this, and you're like, it's too late. I've already been in the military for 10 years. No, like you could start saving now, be almost financially independent by the time you separate from the military, and then stack your benefits, VA benefits, and military pension on top of your savings. And it just gives you more options. I think that's the thing too here, Jamie, is that people they get distracted by the financial independence thing. But really what we're talking about here is optionality.
What do you mean by financial independence? If someone stumbled upon episode 10 of this series, we're well over 200 episodes of this podcast now, and they're like, I don't get financial independence. What does that mean? And why is that a powerful goal that some people may want to consider having for their life?
So financial independence is when you can live off of your accumulated assets, your saved money, and you can just live off of your stockpile for the rest of your life. You don't have to work anymore. You could choose to work if you want to work, but you don't have to because your saved assets pay you enough income to support your lifestyle. Now, when you ask people like, well, how much money would you need to live off of for the rest of your life? You'll get some crazy answers, right? Like people would be like, I don't know, like $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion. And it's like, it comes down to the 4% safe withdrawal rate. This is the core of the financial independence community. And where it started was people were probably figuring this out before him, but Bill Bengen, Bengen, was one of the authors of the Trinity Study. And the Trinity Study was a 1998 study that they did, and it published it in the Journal of Financial Planning. And essentially what they did is they looked at all the different time periods all the data that they had in the US stock market, US bond market, and they looked at a 60-40 portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And they said, what is the maximum amount that you could pull out of that portfolio and you would not run out of money over a 30-year time period? And what they found was 4% was the rule. And that was the worst case scenario. So that only happened in 1 year, 1968. If you retired in 1968 with a 60-40 portfolio, let's say it's $1 million, and your expenses were $40,000 a year, you could pull $40,000 off of that portfolio, and it would last until 1998, from 1968 to 1998. Every other time period they looked at, you could actually withdraw more than 4%. But it's become known as the 4% rule and it's actually held up too in every 30-year time period since then. And you can look at even longer time periods, 40 years, 50 years, and it still holds up, the 4% rule. Now, there's a lot of debate in the FIRE community. Is it a 4% rule? Is it a 4.5% rule? Is it a 3% rule? I'm not going to get into the details on that. I like 4%. I think it's a nice place to start. I mean, you can even think of it as like 1% per quarter. But if you have $1 million portfolio saved, you can pull 4% a year off of it. And that portfolio will never be exhausted in the next 30, 40, 50 years.
And so if your expenses are $40,000 a year, or say you have $20,000 a year of military pension, $40,000 of your retirement income coming in, plus $20,000 a pension, you can spend $60,000 a year and never run out of money. But Spencer, what about for the people that say 50%, that's way too high? You have a chart on page 35 of your book that talks about working years to financial independence. So I just want to point out a couple other options there, because 50%, like we mentioned last week, it can be extreme to really try to max perform your financial independence journey. I do not, and I've never had a savings rate of 50%. I know at some parts of your life you have, but we also, I have 3 kids, I got married younger, stuff like that. So different variables. But if you want to do 40%, that's about 20 years. If you want to do a 30% after-tax income savings rate, it'll take about 25 years. And if you only do 10%, which is what a lot of, mainstream financial and personal finance people talk about, it will take you about 46 years to reach retirement. So if you start investing at 20, then you're looking at, 65, 66, which is about what most people go for. And that's 10%. So you can choose anything in between there. But if you're really serious about work optionality when you're younger than 65 or 66 or 75 or ever, then you want to look at savings rate above 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%. As it gets more aggressive, it just makes it easier and quicker to get to that number.
And Jimmy, I just kind of looking at the extreme examples here too. If you can go from a 2% savings rate, which if let's say that you're making $100,000 a year, and so you're setting aside $2,000 a year, and you're getting a 5% return on investment, we'll assume no inflation, we'll assume inflation's been accounted for in this, and your withdrawal rate's going to be 4%. So you can use the 4% rule. It'll take you 85 years to achieve financial independence. 85 years. Okay. So never. You're never going to be financially independent.
Yes.
But if you can just bump that up from a 2% savings rate to a 4% savings rate. So now instead of saving $2,000 a year, you're saving $4,000 a year. You can achieve financial independence in 70 years. So you just cut off 15 years of working. Now let's crank up. Let's do the standard 10% savings rate, which, a lot of people kind of advocate. That's 50 years of working. So now you've just gone from 85 years of working. So you're going to work your entire life. You're never going to be able to retire. And just by saving 10%, you've cut that down 30 years to 50 years. Okay, now let's say, what if you save kind of, one of the golden standards is save 15% of your income. Well, that's 41 years. I think you gave that example earlier. And that's really interesting, right? Because if you save 15% of your income from age 20 to age 65, that's basically the standard American working career, right? But if you can crank that up just a little bit and save 20% of your income, you only have to work 36 years. And that means that instead of retiring at 65, you can retire at 55, which for most individuals, that counts as early retirement. We're not talking about retiring in your 40s here. We're talking about retiring in your 50s, but still 10 years before the traditional retirement age of 65. The numbers just get really good. The more you can crank up that savings rate, the less time you spend working or having to work, and just the more optionality you get too. And one of the quickest responses I always get to this is, well, I like working. I know I always plan on working. My answer to that is that's fine. Nobody is saying you have to stop working. It's just saying that, wouldn't you like the option of, if your job sucks or your boss changes and you need to find a new job, you can take a month off or a couple of months off and wait for the right opportunity to strike before jumping into your new role. Or maybe you start your own business, or maybe you take some time off and spend it with the kids, or maybe you go back to school, or maybe you start that band you've always wanted to start and you go touring, or it just gives you so many options. And I've never met anybody who's man, I really hate the fact that I have $1 million in the bank.
There's so many options.
Yeah, I have so many options. This really sucks.
Another angle, Spencer, is when you see parents whose, NICU baby is sick and they're both missing work for several months, or the grandparent that retires early to help with a grandbaby who's sick, or the parent or the spouse who husband or wife has cancer and so they're now a full-time caregiver. And you may think you want to work forever, and it may work out where you work your whole life until literally you are done. But you never know what life is going to throw at you. And just knowing that you can be there for your family because you have a little bit of buffer and intentionality to give yourself options in the future, just no matter what comes your way, and you have no idea what's coming your way. So just being a little bit prepared for that. I don't think anyone would be upset by that.
Yeah, there was a study put out by an insurance company that said 58% of people retired sooner than they planned. And the reasons that they cited were health, illness, job loss, organizational changes, and unhappiness in their job. So for a lot of people, like especially the older generation, but even our generation, people are just like, well, I'll just keep working, until I drop dead. And I mean, that's one plan, but it sounds like a shit plan to me. So why would you not take some ownership? Why would you not take some personal responsibility here? And don't rely on the fact that Social Security is going to be there. I think it will be there in some form, but it might be there in a much diminished form to what it is now. Military pensions, I think, will always be there. I think that's probably one of the safest pension that exists in the United States today. But again, like you're just always relying on Uncle Sam to send you that check every month. Why would you not want to have some independence, some freedom from relying on someone else sending you that money? I mean, that's a very American concept, right? To be self-reliant, to be self-sufficient. And that doesn't mean that you have to withdraw from your community. Like, I'm not talking about going out and homesteading in the Wild West here. I'm just talking about setting aside a little bit of the money that you're sent every month by the United States government, and instead of blowing it on Zyn and white monsters, send a little bit to your future self. And so I just wanted to make the point that people are always saying like how hard it is to get ahead. And don't get me wrong, I understand like inflation is a real thing. The cost of living has gone up. Military paychecks have not kept up with the rapid rise in the cost of living. But there are opportunities in the military to set aside a lot of money. Military deployments, your expenses are extremely low. Your income is the highest it's going to be in that year. You have a lot of tax opportunities. Don't squander it. Don't leave the military less rich than you were when you entered. And you can achieve financial independence very quickly with a high enough savings rate. And once you get the bug, it's kind of hard to turn off. So that's why I go back to step number 9, which is build the life you want and then save for it. But as your income increases, I think a lot of people fall into these traps where they're like, great, now I can buy the upgraded car. Great, now I can have the bigger house. Great, now I can go out to eat even more than I already was. And yeah, figure out the stuff that brings you joy and spend money on those things, but then ruthlessly cut the other expenses so that you can have a high savings rate and you can achieve financial independence and just have a lot more optionality and a lot more, just freedom in your life. And I think that's the message there, Jamie. That's why financial independence it still excites me to this day, even having been aware of the financial independence movement probably since 2011, 2012. It's still exciting. And I think every time the stock market drops, right, there's like, oh, financial independence movement is dead. Or you see a lot of like the OG financial independence people going back to work or, starting new projects and stuff. And it's like they're doing that because they have the freedom. Like they're just not going to sit on a beach and sip Mai Tais. Like that is fun. And I'm really looking forward to doing that in a couple of weeks. But it's fun for a week. And then you got to get back to work. Like humans were made to work. Humans were made to do things. It's just, you should be free to choose to do the things that you want to work on. And sometimes the most important things like being a parent, being a husband, being a wife, being a family member, being a partner, like our society isn't set up to assign an economic value to those things and to pay you to do those things. So pay yourself to do those things by saving. And then you can be financially independent and then you can do those things and collect your own paycheck and you don't have to worry about anybody else. F you money.
So that high savings rate is going to give you options. It's a great way to wrap up our 10-part series where we talk about everything from getting started with investing, paying off debt, taking advantage of the 5% match to your TSP, understanding Roth versus traditional individual retirement arrangements versus your TSP. So much goodness in this quick hit 10-part series. And again, if you want more, you need to check out Spencer's book, The Military Money Manual. And that's available on his website, militarymoneymanual.com. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's at the local library on base or on post for you, as well as the Libby app for free. And I think there's so much goodness in there. It's an easy book to read. Hopefully this 10-part series was helpful to you. And we're thankful for you listeners. If you have questions, ideas for future episodes, or anything you want to talk about, reach out to us on Instagram at Military Money Manual or podcast at militarymoneymanual.com via email.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Military Money Manual podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions presented here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. Reference to any commercial products or services does not constitute DoD endorsement of those products or services.